Cognitive revolution, about 70,000 years ago. Humans began to think abstractly and create myths. Shared myths enable cooperation. Large-scale human societies form because people believe in shared stories. Homo sapiens dominance. Sapiens outcompeted other human species through communication and flexibility. Imagined orders. Concepts like money, nations, and gods exist only in collective imagination. Agricultural revolution, around 10,000 years ago. Transition from foraging to farming changed human life radically. The luxury trap. Farming increased food production but worsened daily life and health. Domestication of humans. Humans domesticated themselves while domesticating animals and crops. Growth of hierarchy. Agriculture led to surplus, property, and social inequality. Gender inequality. Patriarchal systems emerged alongside agricultural societies. Writing as power. Writing allowed states to collect taxes and maintain control. Money as universal trust. Money became the most successful shared fiction uniting humanity. Law and order through belief. Laws work because people believe in the legitimacy of systems. Human happiness did not necessarily increase. Progress did not make people happier. Biological versus psychological happiness. Human contentment depends more on expectations than conditions. Religion as social glue. Religions provided moral codes and cohesion in large societies. Trade networks. Economic exchange created interdependence among distant peoples. Myths of progress. Humans justify suffering with belief in a better future. Cultural evolution. Ideas evolve faster than biology, shaping societies rapidly. The paradox of civilization. Civilization brought order and knowledge, but also inequality and anxiety. Gossip theory. Language first evolved to share social information, who could be trusted or not. Fiction as cooperation tool. The ability to imagine fiction allowed humans to cooperate flexibly with strangers. Cognitive flexibility. Sapiens could adapt myths and structures faster than other species. Agricultural dependency. Once farming began, societies couldn't return to foraging due to population growth. Imagined communities. Nations and religions create emotional bonds among people who never meet. Bureaucracy and record-keeping. Writing developed mainly for administrative control, not creativity. Numbers and abstraction. Mathematical systems emerged to track resources and property. Unification through empire. Empires unified diverse peoples under shared political and economic systems. Cultural assimilation. Conquered people often adopted the culture of their conquerors for advantage. Money and religion parallels. Both rely on collective belief to maintain value and trust. Commerce over conquest. Trade often proved more stable than war as a means of expansion. Historical amnesia. People forget how artificial their institutions and traditions are. Mythical legitimacy. Rulers and elites justify power through divine or natural order myths. Limited perspective of progress. What humans call progress often benefits elites, not everyone. The power of storytelling. Human societies exist because of shared narratives, not objective truths. No biological basis for human rights. Rights are moral stories invented to enable coexistence. Historical contingency. History has no predetermined path. It is shaped by random events. Economic faith. Capitalism, like religion, depends on belief in the future. Future orientation. Unlike other animals, humans constantly plan for distant futures. The tyranny of numbers. Quantification and statistics redefine how humans perceive value. Knowledge as power. Control over information has always determined social dominance. The fragility of civilization. Complex societies depend on invisible trust networks that can collapse quickly. The paradox of freedom. As societies become more organized, individual freedom often shrinks. The biological limits of happiness. Our brains are not evolved for constant satisfaction. Expectation gap. Happiness depends more on the gap between expectations and reality than on wealth. Myth of progress. The idea that history always advances toward improvement is itself a myth. Cooperation scale expansion. Sapiens' power lies not in individual intelligence, but in large-scale cooperation. Taxation as civilization's backbone. Empires required organized taxation to sustain armies and bureaucracy. Violence institutionalized. Civilizations channeled violence into structured forms like armies or law. The myth of justice. Every society claims its rules are just, regardless of the suffering they cause. Memory revolution. Writing externalized memory, allowing accumulation of complex knowledge. Faith in hierarchy. Most people throughout history accepted social hierarchies as natural. The curse of abundance. More resources often led to more competition and stress, not comfort. Cognitive dissonance. Humans often justify contradictions between belief and behavior. Suffering as historical constant. Material progress never eliminated existential suffering. Ideological evolution. Ideas that foster cooperation and survival tend to dominate. Myth of merit. Societies often disguise inherited privilege as personal achievement. Ethical distance. The larger the society, the easier it is to ignore distant suffering. Reflexivity of culture. Humans can critique their own myths, something no other species can do. The gossip threshold. Groups larger than about 150 people require myths or institutions to stay cohesive. The fragility of truth. Humans value social harmony over factual truth when conflicts arise. The agricultural illusion. People believed farming meant progress, but it often worsened life quality. Domesticated wheat paradox. Humans think they domesticated wheat, but in reality, wheat domesticated humans. Expansion through imagination. Sapiens expanded worldwide because they could imagine unseen lands and possibilities. Social hierarchies as myths. Castes and classes are justified through invented stories about divine order. Language as a weapon. Mastery of communication allowed humans to manipulate and coordinate others. Myth of productivity. Humans work harder than ever, but not necessarily for greater happiness. Mythic continuity. To maintain stability, societies claim their myths are ancient and eternal. Food surplus and bureaucracy. Extra food required record-keeping, which gave rise to scribes and officials. The birth of debt. Economic systems began with credit and trust, not coins or barter. Religious tolerance in empires. Pragmatic rulers allowed multiple gods to coexist for stability. Expansion of empathy. Myths and religions gradually expanded people's sense of moral community. Civilization as psychological adaptation. Humans constantly reshape their mental models to fit complex societies. The survival of the flexible. It was not the strongest species, but the most adaptable that thrived. Abstract thinking as a weapon. The ability to think about things that don't exist gave humans unmatched power. The rise of narrative identity. Humans define themselves through the stories they tell about their past. The trap of permanence. Agriculture made humans crave stability but fear change. Expansion through discontent. Dissatisfaction drove exploration, innovation, and conquest. The cost of complexity. As societies became more complex, individuals lost autonomy. The paradox of collective intelligence. Group decisions can amplify both wisdom and stupidity. The emotional economy. People exchange not just goods, but emotions like trust, fear, and hope. Fire as a superpower. Mastery of fire gave humans control over the environment unlike any other species. The cost of civilization. Agricultural societies sacrificed leisure and freedom for stability. The origin of inequality. Once property emerged, so did exploitation and class systems. The human paradox. Sapiens created meaning to survive, yet their creations often enslave them. Myths as emotional anchors. Myths endure not because they're true, but because they resonate emotionally.